So I read a little bit of your consultation form, Chloe, correct?
Yeah.
And then I saw behavior, but non-human aggressive, and then like Chihuahua mix, correct?
Yeah, she has the whole
it's a
total,
lot. It's a lot of things. She's just a mutt.
But I think I mentioned like the Australian cattle thing, and then the Chihuahua and Beagle. Those were the ones I remembered.
Yeah,
but she's got couple
the largest. The largest chunk is super mutt. So
got it. How much does she weigh?
25 pounds.
That's a little. She's about 27.
Okay.
Doesn't make a huge difference.
Ballpark.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my margin of error.
So go ahead and fill me in on Chloe with any information that you think I should know whenever you're ready.
Yeah. I mean, the things that so I think I'm the more bothered of the two of us by some of the behaviors. And the things that really concern me are she's leash aggressive or like more like just reactive. So she'll definitely react to other dogs. She'll kind of like go up and sniff, but then something will snap and then it'll be growling and unpleasantness.
Usually when the other dog moves away.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes the dog just has to blink and she's aggressive. And it's sometimes hard to figure out who instigated it. But regardless, 95% of the time, dog interactions are unpleasant on the leash.
That's
unless
true.
She's avoiding.
Well,
she'll also avoid.
When she was younger, it was a lot worse than it is now.
Yeah. And I'd say the other thing that really concerns me that I'd like to just figure out a way to get rid of is like if we have a visitor to the home, if somebody knocks on the door, just bark, 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 and then she will not like leave them alone. So we try various things to sort of like calm her. She's just in such a like hyperactive state when someone's in our house, and it makes it really hard to have people over and to just have conversation. And so I'd like to get rid of some of that behavior. Okay. And she's certainly, she's also like aggressive at the vet. Like if they put her in a crate and then they come to take her out, she's yeah. So just stuff like that. It seems all pretty interrelated though.
Okay. What does she do when guests walk in or run through like a
snake? So she starts barking and then she'll jump up on them. And just like we don't want, her barking or like jumping on guests, but if they just like walk through our home, like we had someone here to consult on blinds for our home, which is, we're in a new space, but she seems to have adjusted okay. And she's exhibiting all the same behavior she did in our old home of just kind of like following the person around, barking and whining when she can't have access to them.
Yeah. So the blinds person, she was whining a lot, not so much barking. It was just very much a want to be around and sniff and jump. It might have, I'm not sure what happened. When we have friends over and things, she'll be very just hyped up, high energy the whole time.
Yeah, and she'll like go after people's shoes. Sometimes she does that with us too, where she like attacks people's shoes. And it's not really like aggressive. Like she's not, that's why I didn't consider her like aggressive. To me, she seems more like anxious and fearful and sort of defensive, and she's kind of just like, hey, don't bother me. Like, so I don't consider her like aggressive. I consider her as just like pretty defensive, I guess. And I don't know how, like, I don't know what I'm doing that isn't like making her less anxious, right?
Okay. And then, so what you see is she wants to be with that person. She wants to say hi and she wants to be around that person, right?
Well, it's not even like always like I want to be friendly with that person. And this is where we like disagree, because I've also like tried putting her on a leash when we know that we have a service person coming over. And at some point, like with the plumber, plumber tried to be like, oh, no, it's okay, I'm a dog person, and like reached out to her and she almost took his hand off. Like,
so with I don't know how she knows the difference when it's like a plumber or when we had people over working on fireplaces in the old place or anything like that. she's very barky and aggressive. When it's not someone like that, she's not barky and aggressive.
She's still, to me, she's still barky. Like when we had Seder dinner at your place and there were a bunch of people over, she was just barking and running around and just, yeah, I remember this.
Okay.
So like, yeah.
Okay, and then at that moment you're talking about, she was off leash, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if someone approached her still at that moment, would she have been okay, or like stuck their hand out?
Yeah.
Yes.
She wouldn't attack anybody off leash.
In that circumstance, she wanted sort of attention and to jump up in someone's lap and lick people in the face and everything, and very very high energy, wanting attention.
Yeah.
And that also wasn't your house either, right?
That was our house. And that was a social gathering.
Yeah.
As opposed to having someone coming over to work, which is a different. She's different in those. So if we have a plumber, electrician, or something, she'll be aggressive towards them.
Yeah, and you nailed it.
But she hasn't like bitten anybody. Like, I think that's where I think it's more like she's just like bark, bark, stay away from me, get out of my home.
Yeah.
Okay. And you nailed it right there. That it's a social setting. So usually when one guest comes over and if she's uncomfortable with them barking, like I said, aggressively, but then another person comes over and another person and another person and another person, the dogs just realize, oh, this is just a social thing, so I'm cool with everyone then. And they seem to let it go the way the environment is laid out. So if it's just like that one person she doesn't know and it's like weird and awkward, then she's gonna be more like, who's this? And then but the gentleman that reached in to Chloe, she was on. He got bored. But she was on leash, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
she's more seemingly aggressive on the leash.
Okay. Okay. And then we'll talk about that. And then off leash, does she like go to dog parks or anything like that, or?
Yeah, we just came from the dog park, and she's a very like, she's not a very social dog. Like she's not interested really in socializing with other dogs. She's very interested in sniffing and sort of policing the like beach, where she's like, if you aren't in the right place, I'm gonna just come up to your face and bark, 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 and that's for dogs. She'll also sometimes do that to people. Like if people come and stand at the gate of the dog park, she just comes up and she barks.
She occasionally will like fixate on a person.
And even on the beach.
Go up to them and bark, even at dog parks too.
Yeah.
Not all the time, not every time, but occasionally, especially towards, I think when she gets a little more tired, she'll fixate on somebody and just go over them and bark at them, and I'll like say, Chloe, come back over here, and like try
and
to
it's
give her
not like
out.
Aggressive, like she won't bite them or go up to their feet or anything, but she has opinions. But she doesn't like run around and play with other dogs. And I'm just not sure. I haven't grown up with dogs, so I don't know if that's just it's just her personal preference, or if it's just she hasn't been socialized, and like, so I don't know if that's part of her anxiety. Like, I don't know.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. Like, those are the pain points for me. Well, I guess the one thing too that it has recurred. So, and again, it's on leash, and like I mentioned, she's sort of like often gets in like tussles with dogs while on leash. But the thing that really bothers me is that it's pretty like infrequent, but regular enough to be a pattern. So like just this week, we were walking back home on the path, the lakefront path, and a skateboarder was coming the opposite direction from us, and she lunged at him, and like, you know, I keep her on a leash so she can't just run across the path. But she lunged at him so threateningly that he fell off his skateboard. And she's done that to other individuals too, and it'll usually be someone coming our direction. So like, she also doesn't really love it when like rollerbladers speed by us. She's kind of like, oh no. but usually if she lunges at something, it's that it's coming towards us. Like a couple of months ago, she lunged at a little girl that was like 4 or 5 that was just walking with her mom. The little girl didn't make any motions towards her that were like threatening in my mind. And to me, that was a really, really bad experience because the mother was upset, the child was crying, and then like 2 days later she did it to a guy on the path. We were just walking on a path, and she got so upset with that one. I put her on her back to just stop her, distract her, and she was still like fighting and barking to get to this guy who was on the path. So it's weird, like it's not like most of the time, like most of the time if we're walking on the path, she's fine and she's not really like gonna react to people, but it's that like I don't know when it's gonna happen, and I don't see any signs. I don't, because normally I feel like I can see her signs of like if she's gonna react to a dog, I can see her ears, I can see her tail, you know, like you can just see her body language change. And for these, I didn't see anything coming, and so that bothers me because I'm worried that like someday maybe it's not going to be that she couldn't get to him, and then we're going to have a like situation where she's going to bite somebody. Like I just don't want to get there, so I want to like change the behavior before we ever get to a point that's like that.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Yeah. The notes I'll add to what Jen was just saying is that, I mean, Chloe, I've had Chloe for longer than I've known Jen. When I adopted her when she was a year and a half, she was a lot worse about this stuff early on when she was younger. She would it's what seems to trigger her in my view is when there are people moving in ways that she doesn't expect. So her sort of getting aggressive and barking at kids was a thing when I first got her. It happened a few times. Kids would be running around, jumping, playing just on the sidewalk, and when we got near them, she would freak out and start barking. Mm-hmm. Skateboarders, people on rollerblades, again, this is sort of like people, you know, zooming by on wheels is something that probably just makes her anxious. I'm not like excusing her. I'm just trying to sort of do my best to identify what I think may be the cause.
Okay. And then how old is she right now?
She's 9. A little over 9.
And this has been going on since, for how long?
Since I've had her, she's had leash aggression issues, just reacting to stuff. It's like I said, it's better than it once was. I've worked with her a lot, but yeah, it's, you know, it's not ideal, not great, and certainly when Jen's taking her out and it happens, it's difficult.
Okay. And then what have you tried? What have you done to like help it?
We've started using a gentle leader about 2 years ago or so, and I think that it's less frequent than when she's on a gentle leader than when she's not.
Okay.
One thing I was doing was when I was working hard on making improvements, I would always have treats or sometimes even a little squeezed thing of peanut butter, and when we walk by something, I have that right in front of her to distract her. She's very food motivated. Mm-hmm. It used to be almost we couldn't walk by a dog or a person. This is way back. Couldn't walk by a dog or a person without something happening, and I got to a point where that's not the case. And now even like usually walk by a dog, and if the other dog doesn't engage, Chloe will walk by or distract herself or something. So, you know, that it's improved a lot.
I think her preference is avoidance. If she can't avoid, then she gets barky.
Okay. So when you walk Chloe, if she sees a dog or something coming to her, she starts to avoid. But now what you're seeing now is she's trying to just lunge at them, at the objects, correct?
It depends.
It's
like,
not. It's infrequent.
Okay.
Well, I mean, so because I think often people don't seem to believe us when we're like, oh, she's leash aggressive, give us some space. And they're like, oh, but my dog is curious and it like wants to sniff your dog.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, let's see. Because I'm kind of the mindset, like I'd like to desensitize her. So I feel like exposure to other dogs is good as long as there's nothing like violent going on. But it's almost inevitably like if the dog, they come and they sniff each other's butts, and then something happens, and then it's hard to tell who initiates it, but then they both are like,
it is often, it's not always, it's often about someone walking away. Like there was recently a few weeks ago in our courtyard, one of our neighbors came by and I was taking out Chloe, and neighbor's like, oh, can I pet Chloe? And I said, she's sometimes a little bit, whatever. And he's like, that's all right, and Chloe jumped up and like getting all sorts of pets, and they were lovey-dovey and wonderful. And then when he got up he walked away, and then Chloe started barking sort of somewhat aggressively at him once he started walking away. So it's the leaving is often the trigger point for her, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not 100% of the time with dogs, but oftentimes if they're interacting and it's okay, and the other dog moves away, not even to walk away, just to move away, and that's what triggers it now.
Okay. And then if you have guests, back to the guest, sorry. If you have guests come over and Chloe's barking at the guest, I say it's one person only. Does she ever like stop barking?
So, well, we try to mitigate the behavior. So her peanut butter Kong is high value. So we try to sort of distract her. We tell her to go to her bed, and we give her the Kong when she does. And then we tell her that she needs to stay. And then she's often, even though she's obsessed with the Kong, if someone's like walking through the house, she'll certainly whine, and then she'll often break stay. So she'll come like find the person, and she'll do it like she knows she's supposed to be doing stay. So she'll kind of like slink in to just be like, I gotta check out the situation. But then she'll, she will start barking when she sees them, and we try to get her to go back to her bed.
If she's in a separate room, like when the people are working on the fireplace.
Yeah.
And I had her.
Yeah, but if you're next
let me finish.
Okay.
I had her in the office with me. She would definitely be like barking and whining a lot initially, but they were there all day. So after half an hour, 45 minutes, she would stop. But then if someone walked by the door of the office and she heard it, it would set her off again.
Yeah, but that's only if she's like in a room with you, because we also try to do like timeouts. Like if she starts barking at somebody, we put her in the bathroom with the lights off to just kind of like cool the energy, and then don't let her out until she's been quiet for like 10 seconds, and then she can try again. And if she fails, she goes back in, so we've tried that too. And she seems to sort of get that, but she'll also then just spend minutes in the bathroom barking and whining.
Whining is more of the case in that point.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I think so.
Okay. So yeah, I asked that question just because I'm trying to see like what the root is. Whether it's frustration or like a nervousness. So a nervous dog, what would happen is guest comes in, bark, 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 and is barking. And then let's say the guest sits down and then the dog settles down. The guest starts to stand up and then the dog explodes again and starts barking, bark, 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 bark. Because it's a change that they weren't expecting on their terms. So that's nervous behavior. But if it's this constant barking and then like she settles and she sees something happen, because with the office that's different because there's a threshold. So it could be like who's out in front of our door, who's out kind of coming to the house, right? So that's different. But if it was like someone in your office, let's say they came in and she's barking, and then like someone sat in front of your desk and you guys are talking for a bit, and then maybe you guys both laughed, and then she's like, oh, whoa, bark, 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 bark. That's nervous still. But I'm not getting that either. So it sounds like just frustration. It's the same thing if like someone, um, it's like frustration, overstimulation, where like, someone's petting her, and then once you leave, she kind of wants to go say hi again. But then sometimes that dogs, because what do you walk Chloe on? A harness or like a collar?
The gentle leader, so it's like around her snout and behind her head.
Got it. So sometimes when someone or something they want leaves and they want to go and it hit the gentle leader, they get frustrated. So then they start barking because they're leaving and they want to go, but this isn't allowing them to move forward. That could be another thing. So like you said, there's always signs. Like there's never a dog who just acts a certain way out of nowhere. So like with the little girl coming forward, it's probably just because it's a child with a lot, like dogs, they view children differently, like puppies. And they see this little goofy child walking towards them, and then anything that's coming towards a dog is confrontational. It's always confrontational. Nothing. It's not natural. So a lot of times when dogs are meeting on the street, you always see them meet like this. And that's why fight happens, because this is not natural. Dogs are supposed to meet like this, smelling each other's rears. So if something's coming towards her and she doesn't like it, and it keeps coming, and crosses a threshold, then she gets a lunge because like, you didn't leave me alone, you're still coming to me. But that's because she doesn't know, because she's on her, like, that's there's no like boundaries or rules during the walk. She's just free. She's like, I don't like that, I'm gonna lunge. I don't like that, I'm gonna lunge. She's doing her own thing on the walks, which needs to be switched around. Same thing with the skateboards. And the reactivity on leash is just because dogs have certain responses: fight, flight, avoidance, submission. So if a dog is on a leash, they know they can't run. They're not going to submit because they don't know what's going on. They're not comfortable. So all that's left is, what did I say? Avoidance or fight.
Yeah.
So if Chloe can't avoid anymore, all that's left is fight, because you've taken her flight away, so she can't get away from this child that's coming to her. So all that's left is, well, looks like I have to take care of this. So then there's the fight, which also needs to be rewired. We need to rewire the brain, let her know you can still avoid, you can still submit. And submission isn't always roll over on your back and accept the kid who's walking past you. Submission, at least for us, is also acceptance. Just accept that there's a child next to you and you are supposed to not react to this child walking by, skateboard, dog, person, whatever it is that's walking towards her, passing her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What else did I have here that you mentioned? And then the guests walking in, it sounds dumb, but the dogs don't know that, oh, there's a plumber coming in at 11 a.m., so I better be ready, right? It happens, and then they're thinking, who invited this guy in our home? Someone has to do something. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. They're here. What do I do? Right? And then the moving through this bed, giving a Kong is a good distraction, a good band-aid, but it will never fix the problem, because she's going into what's called behavior mode, where she's going to like a nervousness / territorial type thing. If she's she's like kind of giving space to the guy. Now, if it's a friend and she keeps going and wanting to say hi and the jumping, because that's what she does when she knows someone, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if it's a plumber coming in, you already have her in the crate, so there's never a chance for her to be off leash, right? Nothing happens.
Well, no, we usually have her out.
Okay. And
when they come over and try to just like stop her from barking. Yeah.
Okay, with the leash or?
Well, I've tried
with the door.
Yeah, I've tried the leash, but the leash seems to make her more aggressive. So we feel like that's maybe not the best. So like when the blinds lady came this week, we just let her out and tried to get her to stay in her bed. So we don't crate her, but we could.
Yeah, So again, so that's behavior of what you wanted to attack, but then you're actually doing obedience. So do you know the difference between behavior and obedience?
I don't.
So obedience is for humans. Think of obedience as math, science, English, and then behavior is like don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat. So if I have a problem with like stealing stuff, teaching me math problems isn't going to help my addiction of stealing things, right? They don't connect. So for dogs, obedience is sit down, stay place, recall, heal.
Yeah.
Behavior is don't bite, don't bark, don't whine, don't growl, and jump. So you're telling her place, but then she's like, this guy in my house. So they're never going to connect. She's always going to keep thinking about it. And it's a good band-aid because because what you're doing is you're just moving her. And if she can say that, that's great. But it's never going to because you're going to want to address the problem head on.
Okay.
But of course, it's your house, your rules. We give you the information how to fix it, what to do. But if you're like, no, I mean, we put her in the crate now and it's just quiet, when the plumber's here, then if it works, it works. But we'll also help you like specifically address this type of behavior, and we have a lot of exercises that cover and go over that.
Cool.
Did I miss anything you guys mentioned? And if you've always walked her on a gentle leader, then you said, right?
Always.
We started that about 2 years ago. For that, I had her on the Martingale collar, the one that's like half of a chain and then half of a strap, so you can get a quick like gentle pinch around the neck to get her attention and get her to stop.
That doesn't seem very effective.
It's not. It works at what it's there for.
Okay.
Like for example, she's. I used it to teach her heel, and she heals fantastically.
Got it.
But yeah.
Okay. And then so just to kind of recap, you're trying to address the reactivity on leash, and then in the home. Those are your main concerns, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you looking for any other like commands? Like
no, she's actually, because she's so food motivated, she's so easy to teach the like obedience tricks. She's really good at those.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. So I'm assuming you guys read up on us, and then we train e-collars and prong collars and things like that. Those tools, and we're balance trainers, correct?
Well, I did. I don't know. Jay didn't really do any reading.
So we use e-collars here. E-collar is the only tool that for us can get us to 90 to 100% of reliable obedience and success, because we have all these other tools, right? Gentle leader is a good tool for control, right? And it's also because once you control the head, you can control the body, but it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't correct any behaviors, right? So dogs are physical animals. So if Chloe's at the dog park, and let's say Chloe's starting to bark, 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 and let's say this dog was like, this is annoying. What do you think that dog would do to let Chloe know that that was annoying to him, or he didn't like that?
Yeah, I mean, the dogs normally just walk away from her.
This dog walks away and goes into a corner and is like this, and she's barking. Like, what does the dog have left?
Yeah, he's gonna get aggressive.
Exactly, it's gonna be a bite.
Yeah.
So dogs don't put dogs in timeouts. Dogs don't say, hey, leave it, quiet, leave it. It's just, if you're gonna do this action, you're gonna get this consequence right off the bat. No words, nothing's exchanged, because from the day they were born, they have been receiving physicality from their mothers. Right? There's a good video to watch. It's a Labrador mother walking into her playpen with a bunch of puppies. Then she enters, and these puppies just flood her with like excitement, whining, jumping, and she starts to growl. You hear her growl, and the snap, 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 she cracks 3, and all of them start to walk away, and they all lay down.
Oh, wow.
No words said. There was no timeout. It was like, hey, leave it, leave it, leave it. It was just, you're doing this. I'm going to show you this is unacceptable. And they understood it immediately. There was nothing to teach. It was just boom, done. Right? Now, there's a certain way to correct. There are other dogs who are like unstable, who overcorrect, where it's like a correction, but then they keep going, and that's too much. But the mother did a healthy one where she did the growl first. Some of them you can kind of like what was that? And then she didn't get what she wanted. Then the snapping kicked in immediately. Um, what else? So again, dogs are physical animals. So gentle leader, again, can get you that physical control, but it won't fix anything. Martingale collars, slip leads, slip chains are also good to control, but it doesn't really allow you to correct any behaviors because there's no constant. Because when you pull it, it just kind of closes. So the martingale is different from the slip leash. Sorry. So is for me, on my opinion of a martingale, it's the same thing as a regular flat collar, in my opinion. Um, and honestly, we don't promote harnesses because they promote pulling. So anytime you see a harness that says a no pull harness, it's an oxymoron because Husky uses. We use harness protection training to create frustration and aggression.
Oh wow.
Sorry, because this right here is like annoying negative pressure. So when a dog wants to go somewhere and you pull back, it makes them want to go forward because they have what's called opposition reflex. So if you pull back, they go forward, left, they want to go right. If you pull right, they want to go left. And if you want to pull forward, they want to go back usually. So like sometimes if you're on the street, you'll see a dog just like do the little dig on the ground and the owner's like pulling on the harness, but the dog's going against it. They're going like, you see them like this. They're going against the pressure. And then protection training, what we do is we have the dog on a harness, we pull and release, because when we pull, they want to go. So we let them go a little bit, but then we pull again. And then once we see aggression, frustration come out, let it go, and then go and bite the guy or whatever. So sometimes when owners are raising puppies, they can be unintentionally doing protection work from their puppies. So that's where they get frustration because the puppy sees something they want to go to, but then they pull them away. And the puppies think that was annoying. I didn't like that. And as they keep eating, they start to associate person. I get this pressure. They have to say they have something to do with it. This person or dog. And then as it builds up, they start to bark. They start to whine. And if it gets really intense, then it can turn into real aggression where they just want to get rid of this annoying thing. What else? So then all these tools have low ceilings. So prong collar is the one with the spiky one that kind of closes. It's supposed to mimic a dog bite. So it's a good step forward because now it allows you to correct behaviors. It's a correctional tool. So that's a pro. Some cons though is sometimes the dog can be so disengaged that you give your harshest correction, like a leash pop, it does nothing, right? And size doesn't matter either. There's been Jesse has a Chihuahua that was the same way when he started his career. His Chihuahua was reactive, and Jesse would give his harshest correction. The Chihuahua would do 3 spins and then go back to barking. Didn't care. Just wanted to bark, 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 bark. And then you can teach behaviors as well. So commands. So sit down, stay placed, and come. You can teach them all. But then once you take that leash off, you've lost all control. So then there's a low standard for obedience and behavior for the prong collar. All dogs are different though. So like usually like golden retrievers or pit bulls or like the bully breeds have a hard time perceiving it and then understanding that it means no. So it's funny because Goldens are so happy-go-lucky, they don't really perceive threat that well. So they're just like, what was that? And they're still wiggling and everything. So they're still disengaged. Then which brings us to the electronic collars, e-collars. Old school term is shock collar. It's electric, but it's not electricity. So it's not flowing through the dog's body. It's really just a collar, a little box, and 2 contact points. What are those 2 contact points? Whatever they're touching is what it's contracting. Have you guys ever been to a physical therapist or like a chiropractor?
Yeah.
Have you ever had stim, like a TENS unit?
Oh yeah.
Same technology is what an e-collar is. So it's just a muscle contractor. And I don't know if your therapist did, but what they do is they ask the client, like, let me know what's too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Gets to the point, they lower it 2 levels down, and then they let the machine do its work. That same way is very similar to how we do our training with our dogs, right? Because the brand we use is called Dogtra. And this brand level wise, because it has the vibration, and you might have heard tone, the beeping noise, and then the stimulation, the shock part. We only use stimulation. We don't use vibrate in our model. Our brain doesn't have tone. So our brain has 127 levels. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 127, right? There are other brands out there that have maybe 10. So think of 10, the power outage of 10 when you press the button, equal to 127, right? We have so many more numbers to be more specific to the dog's personality, the breed, the size, the moments we're in. Because the issue of the 10 level ECOG, and it kind of speaks for itself just hearing the numbers, is 5 is getting Chloe to yelp too much. But then 4 is too little, she doesn't listen, she's still reacting. So then you're stuck. You want your dog yelping or you want your dog not listening. Plus, for example, if 50 is too high, but then 40 is too low, we can go to 45 or 42 or 43. We can be very specific for Chloe. They're waterproof, they're rechargeable, mile to a half-mile long range. We do have, or they do sell mini ones for little dogs if she's got a smaller neck. But I mean, she's 25 pounds, so it shouldn't be that small. But you know, we've done Pomeranians, Pomsky, little Chihuahuas. They've all been on. We have little models for them as well. But the idea is why we get success again is because it's physical, right? Because everything you've been trying to do hasn't stopped a behavior yet. It's only distracted her or brought her away from something. So what we want to do now is stop the behavior and let her submit to it and accept that there's a child walking by, don't worry about it. And the idea behind this tool is that because to fix most of these issues, it's teaching her like one command. And I know you already taught her heel, but we would have to teach her our style of heel. That's the heel. So our style of heel is walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. So I take 5 steps with Chloe, Chloe takes 5 steps. If I take 10, she takes 10. If I come to a stop, she automatically sit on our left side, right shoulder parallel to our left leg, loose leash in any environment.
Wow.
Right? And it's very strict, so strict to the point where nothing else should matter except right. She needs to keep this position, and if she doesn't, then she's going to get that uncomfortable feeling of the electronic collar. And it isn't simple as let's turn it all the way up and just tap her whenever she passes. It's taught in a certain way, and yeah, there's a specific way to teach because that's a common way you'll hear trainers do is like we'll put the econ on a dog, let the dog do the bad behavior, and then bump it all the way up to the maximum level, and then correct it, which is incorrect, right? Because the dog at that moment doesn't know what this feeling is. Because this exercise of heel is also addressing or covering for Chloe what is this feeling. So she in this exercise she's going to learn, oh, when I do this it goes off, but when I do this it turns off. I know how to control it. We're teaching her how to turn on, how to turn off, and what it means. It's what is it? Any questions so far? Sorry.
So this is just like she wouldn't have an e-collar for all time. It would just be until we get behaviors that are positively reinforced, or like it's not a permanent solution, I guess is what I'm asking.
So that's a good question. So it technically would be on like forever on your walks, even after.
Oh, okay.
Right, because we can't predict what's going to happen on this walk.
I see.
So let's say we're walking on a busy street, and since she likes to avoid certain things, let's say I don't know, a car crash happens, and she gets freaked out, and she goes to in flight mode, and she wants to run, and maybe it catches you off guard because she was doing so good, and maybe you had like a little loose like grip on the leash or something, or maybe she gets out the collar, or something happens where she's running away.
Yeah.
Chloe, come. In that moment, it's very difficult for her to understand to just turn around and come back to you because in flight mode, dogs are thinking kill or be killed. So you're going to need power to override the brain in that moment to make her do the 180 and come back to you, right? So like me and the other trainers here, Jesse, like we keep our e-collars. We've done all the hard work already. And we still keep our e-collars on when we go outside, but we're not pressing the button all the time. We press it maybe like once or 2 times a month for like emergency situations. It's there just in case, because I don't want a what if moment, and I don't want, because I already know that it only takes one time for me to realize I should keep it on, and I've already had a moment like that before, and I was working with my dog, so it's on all the time when I take her outside. But then let's say right now she's just hanging out, then you don't need the e-collar. Let's say you're gonna have a guest come over tonight. 30 minutes prior, you collar her up, address whatever that is needing to be addressed. And if you find that she's pretty much settled throughout the night and she's relaxed, you can take it off. Or if it makes you feel comfortable, you can keep it on just in case. That's personal preference there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Good question. And then another common question would be, how come when I take the e-collar off, Chloe maybe starts barking at the guests again, but then I put it back on, she's quiet. So we like to use an example of, for humans, is drivers who are on the highway usually don't go the speed limit, right? And then once you see a squad car, you'll see everyone slow down. It's called opportunistic behavior. Jesse likes to call the e-collar a cop on a collar. It has nothing to do with the training. It has nothing to do with the way you guys practice or Chloe. It's just a nature thing. If we know we can get away with something, we're going to get away with it. And then also, the owners kind of play a part into it. So here and there, we'll have an owner that does walks with the e-collar, does walks without the e-collar, and it's inconsistent. So the dog will realize, oh, this walk was different. I kind of did more stuff that I wanted to do. What was different? Oh, no collar. Okay, now I know. When the collar's off, I can do whatever I want. But when the collar's on, I need to behave. So it's like dog and person. It kind of goes hand in hand. So it's just about being consistent. Just letting you know that if you are consistent and you're always being out, and you still find that she's taking opportunities, taking the opportunities that she sees and taking advantage of that, it's a nature thing. But all dogs are different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What else? So you would want to switch out to, I mean, we can still do gentle leader if we want. If you guys want, keep it on. It'd be easier if you want to do. You can do a flat collar as well if you want to get rid of the gentle leader. Like I said, we've done heel and e-collar training with gentle leaders on. So there's no wrong or right in that area. Because as long as we're not doing like a harness, because again, harness promote pulling. So if one tool is telling her to pull, but then the other tool, the e-collar, is telling her to not pull, she's getting mixed messages and she's gonna be a little confused there. What else? Did I cover everything for you guys? The reactivity on leash. So it would be, let's see what heel fixes.
Okay.
And let's say she doesn't care about humans, she doesn't care about children, everything's going great. You don't have to address it because heel has fixed that already, and it happens. So I had a client, their dog was like doing low grumbles at every single person that walked by, and during the end of the walk, everything was building up, and then she'd do the lunges at everything.
Yeah.
Each heel, they practice, and then she said that she never grumbles at anyone anymore. It's only skateboarders now. Like that's all the only problem she has. So let's see what it fixes. And if we find that there is something that is still an issue for Chloe, then we can tackle that, and we'll teach you how to like specifically address this specific like trigger. So that's the idea of the heel, and that typically has what program were you guys looking for? I can run to them if you want. We have like the in-person, the board and train, and then daycare and train. Was there one you had in mind? Or like I said, I can just run through them if you want.
Yeah, I mean, from what I had seen, I thought in person would be good because it's in like Oz Park, which isn't too far from us, which I think would be good.
Yes. So Oz Park is great because everything is there. So it's funny because there's like a tour group that comes every single day, and there's like 18 to like 10 bikes that just come by.
Wow.
right? So everything's there, off leash dogs, baseball games, parties, everything's there. So we love Oz Park. Basically, we operate at Oz Park for in person. So for what you're looking for, we have the 6-week program in person, 9-week, and then the 12-week. Trying to think. I'd say since you're not really looking, hello? Oh, here you go. Okay, never mind. Since you're not really looking for commands and you're just trying to address the leash walking and in-home stuff, I'd say the six-week program would be good for you. So how the programs work, think of a 6-week program. I walk my dog around the block. I have that structured heel, no reactivity. And then I go to the dog park, I need recall, and I go home. 9-week, both those things, the walk and the recall, and then maybe I want to go to the patio. I need Chloe to lay down, not move for an hour or two. The 12-week is all those things, plus you go off-leash hiking every other weekend, right? For you, the 6-week would cover 2 classes would be heel, and then we'll see what do these 2 classes fix. Okay, we're starting here, then we can spend a class on that. And then we typically like to teach recall if you guys are wanting it, but if you guys don't care, we don't need to. But for us, recall is super important. And if you're gonna have a tool that allows you to have recall off leash, it's just a good thing for you guys to know, because that's like the main thing of ECOG for some owners or obedience wise. It's like, I want my dog to have an off leash recall. I want my dog to be a mile away. I press a button and they come back right away. That's what they want.
Oh, wow.
Okay. But our priority obviously is the behavior. So if we were to do recall, that's already 4 classes, and then you have 2 classes here, right? So these 2 classes, one will cover the in-home, and the other one could be like what's going on with the in-home. But then you kind of don't have enough wiggle room, right? So then the 9-week, 2 classes heel, 2 classes recall, and then you have 5 classes here. So 1 class could be in-home, and then you have 4 extra here, and then it most likely be 2 classes in the home, and you have 3 here. So 3 could be, all right, what is she struggling still with the reactivity? Okay, it's reactive dogs. All right, we'll address these. So that's 1 class, and you have 2 left here. So it's depending on you guys. If you're just leash walking and the behavior in the home, and you don't really see yourself letting your dog off leash, then we don't need to cover recall. We can just get straight into the reactivity and in home. So it's kind of depending on what you're wanting or how much control you're wanting for Cleo. Not Cleo. Sorry, we had a Chihuahua. So that's how in-person works. It's also all verbal instruction. So if you work with me or Jesse, we never touch the dogs. We only coach you through. So you're learning everything from ground zero. So you're learning how to troubleshoot. You're learning how to address reactivity, because since you're dealing with reactivity, we would suggest you do in person anyways, because at the end of the day, it's going to be you out in the parks with Chloe, not us, right? They're all recorded, so if one of you misses out on the session, if you watched the session you missed last week, keep up with it. It's a 1 hour a week. So if you did the 6-week program, Sundays, this isn't for example, Sundays, 1 p.m., 6 times for an hour at Oz Park. So you have 6 time slots on our calendar, and those time slots are reserved for you. No one can take your time away. And then you also get +1. So you have 7 on our calendar. And that's, if it rains or, obviously if it rains, we can still meet at the facility. But if you're like, no, we can't meet, or, if life happens where if you need to cancel, you still have a slot reserved for you to use. But once you use that extra time slot, you have to wait to get back on the calendar. Any questions about the in-person program or anything in general?
No, I think that makes sense. What do you think about like a recall?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you're always worried about her running away and not coming home.
She's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need an answer right now for if you want the 6-week or 9-week program. Then you can always purchase more classes if needed. If you're like, let's say we do the 6 week, and then you're like, man, I want to learn more commands. Then we can just add on more classes. It's not gonna. We can still do that. What else? So yeah, after this consultation, a follow-up email will be sent out to you. The programs we talked about with the prices.
Okay.
The e-collar I recommend for Chloe, and she's 25 pounds. What kind of coat does she have? I should just.
It's pretty thick. Really? I think
No,
it's pretty
no,
thick.
no,
Okay.
no.
All right. I don't know.
25 pounds, and then so I'll send you the e-collar I recommend. It'll be a link to Amazon where you can purchase it yourself, or you can purchase it through us. Usually the one-on-ones, the in-person clients purchase themselves, so then come first class, they're already familiar with it, so they don't need like a tutorial or anything with the e-collar, and they can get straight into the teaching part. Personal preference there. We sell it for the same price. If you do purchase from us, it'll be 30 days. If there's anything wrong with it, you return it to us. We borrow you a collar, and we'll deal with the company. After those 30 days, it'll be you guys who would have to contact Doctra if you have any malfunctions.
Okay.
Another thing that will be sent out to you in the follow-up email would be an agreement form. So you'll just have to sign the agreement form. Once that form is signed, then we can go ahead and begin billing and booking. And this email will be sent out by my assistant, Tina. She handles all the scheduling, my calendar and everything. So she'll be the one you'll be in contact with for like booking and like, a date's available. Because we always go by your availability. So whenever you're available, she'll see it and she'll put it in my calendar and like that. What else? Anything else?
No, I think that makes sense.
Alrighty. If any other questions come up, feel free to email me. But other than that, it doesn't sound difficult at all. Sounds very simple. Nothing out of the ordinary. Overstimulation and frustration is a very common thing in dogs and dog owners. So I don't foresee this being a difficult case or anything like that. It's a very common thing we deal with. But other than that, I think that's all.
Awesome. Well,
Alrighty.
thank you so much for walking through everything with us.
Of course. Nice speaking with you. Nice meeting you guys, and we'll keep in touch.
All right.
Sounds good. All right.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks. You too.